Hi everyone, it's Rachel back with the Shades of Orange, and today I'm here to do a little bit of a different video, and that is a confession, because I'm a bad booktuber. I'm also a bad YouTuber in general, and we're going to talk about today. If you're new to my channel, normally I discuss and review books, typically in the genres of horror, thriller, science fiction, fantasy, but today I want to do something a little bit different. I want to do something more personal, and admit that I really suck at doing the thing that I love to do. So let's get into it, of course keeping it a little bit light and fun. I just thought it would be enjoyable to make fun of myself for a little bit, and point out some things that I actually do really poorly. Let's get started. First off, I mispronounce authors' names a lot. When I don't know how to pronounce an author's name at all, sometimes I just skip over it and only give the title of a book, but often I try to pronounce the author's name only to fail miserably, as many of you will point out in the comments. And on top of that, sometimes I mispronounce or just misspeak the title of the book, so I know what the title is, but there's a lot of books that have very similar titles that I've read, and sometimes I mix them up. Sometimes I'm really tired when I film, which will be a recurring theme in this video, and so yeah, sometimes I mess them up. And at least if I was a good booktuber or YouTuber, I would actually take the time during editing to make a note or kind of a written word on the screen that would correct and say, you know, this is the actual title. But I don't even do that. Next, I really suck at giving summaries of books. So I think this comes from my roots as a thriller reviewer, because in that genre, really less is more. And so you really learn just to end your review wrap-ups with saying, and the story goes from there. Because even if a part of a book isn't necessarily a true spoiler, I would just rather experience it for myself rather than have someone say, and then this happens, and then that happens, and then that happens. I would just rather experience it, because all I need to know is the basic setup. I want to have an idea about what the book is supposed to be about, or at least what the author is leading us to think the book is about, and then I want to experience it for myself. I feel the same way about movie trailers. I find that trailers give away way too much of the movie and kind of give away all the good parts in order to get you to buy a ticket to the theater, and I much prefer teasers when it comes to movie trailers, so that's how I try to give out my own reviews. So I give you a tease about what the book's about, but more so my reviews, I try to focus on my feelings towards the book, perhaps make recommendations about what book it's similar to, things like that. But I don't want to tell you the whole plot. I don't want to do a book report online, so that's why I do my reviews the way I do, but other people don't love that. So if you hate that, you're not going to find really detailed book summaries on my channel. Next up is the fact that I don't typically prepare notes for my videos. Now this is actually the exception. I did write a list of things that I'm really bad at before filming this, so I do have a list to refer to. But when it comes to my usual videos, I don't have notes that I'm looking at besides just a listing of the books I need to talk about if it's a review video or a recommendation video. So you can usually tell it pretty easily from the way that I describe books. I tend to talk very off the cuff. I tend to just discuss and, you know, have the conversation with myself go from there. So if you're looking for someone who's like reading off a prompter and has very specific notes and says things absolutely perfectly, you're going to be disappointed by my channel. You're going to be disappointed so many times by my channel, but I'm just letting you all know this in case you haven't figured this out for yourself. Next, I kind of mentioned, but it's the fact that I don't give disclaimers or point out my mistakes when I make them on camera. When it comes to filming, my schedule has gotten really tight since having a kid, so I don't often have the time to go back and refilm something if I make a mistake. So during editing, if I can, like, just splice out a little clip and avoid somewhere where I stumble over my words, of course I'm doing that. But if I, again, mispronounce an author's name, things like that, often I will just go along with it, and I will do so without putting any disclaimer in the description box or adding anything on screen to kind of point out my mistake. I kind of figure that either you will notice the mistake and you will just notice it, know I did it wrong, or if I point out the mistake, then I'm pointing it out to everyone who's watching the video. So I always secretly hope that if I don't point it out, then maybe some people realize or won't realize that I did something wrong. That's at least what goes on in my head. Next up is one that's particularly bad when it comes to horror and thriller books, and that's the fact that I completely forget to give content warnings, like, all the time. I do very much respect that content warnings are an important thing. I understand that people have different triggers and want the ability to pick up books that are not going to be harmful for them to read. So I very much respect why content warnings should be there, but I'm just terrible at remembering to say them on camera. And more specifically, I'm terrible for noticing them when I'm reading them. So there's one specific review video, I'm not going to say which one because it spoils the book, but within that book review, I talked about a thriller, and someone in the comments said, hey, is there any harm to animals within this book? And I thought about it for a moment and said, no, it's totally fine, go for it. And then they gave me another comment a few weeks later saying, why did you tell me there was no harm to animals? This guy just murdered a puppy. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that puppy murder. So half my problem with content warnings is the fact that some things just are not content warnings for me, and so they kind of go over my head and I get very oblivious to them, and I read them, but they just don't really trigger in my mind to make a mental note to remember them for later. So I forget content warnings a lot. I try to mention them when I remember, but I do forget a lot. Next, let's talk a little bit more about my editing. And first off is the fact that I don't do green screens, I don't do fancy sounds. I can have the little button that says like subscribe pop up on my channel with an animation and you like click it and all that. I don't do those fancy things. I don't really know how to do those fancy things. I do know I'm capable of learning to do them, but I'm not that interested in that. So if you want to watch someone just sit in front of a bookshelf and talk about books that they love, this is a great channel to check out. But if you're looking for an entertaining background, if you're looking for like a spaceship flying by on a green screen, you're gonna be oh so disappointed with my content because I don't do that. I appreciate the channels that do, but for me, I would rather prioritize my time for filming and reading books, and then again, having time left over for my family. So I do keep my editing really sparse compared to a lot of channels. Maybe my channel suffers because of it, but it is what it is. I will always be that lady sitting in front of a bookshelf just talking about books, and if that works for people, great. If they need something more, totally respect that too. Along the same note, I often don't have timestamps in my videos. I'm trying to get better for that because I know that people really appreciate them. I, as a viewer, really appreciate them, so I do understand why people ask for them. So I do try to put them into videos where they're very long, and I understand that there might be specific sections that people want to skip over. For example, my book hauls, I'm often hauling multiple genres, and some of my science fiction fantasy viewers don't want to hear about the creepy, messed up horror books I'm reading, so I give them timestamps so they can skip over that. But I don't do it in every video, typically not in my review videos, and at least with those videos, you can actually look at the picture on the screen, and I do put a picture of the book so you kind of know when that book is being talked about and you can kind of skip over it. And again, everything I do is spoiler free, so for the most part you really don't ever have to worry about that with my channel. So those are my justifications. I will try to do more. Let me know in the comments if that's something that you would really like to see is more consistent timestamps. Next up is the fact that my thumbnails are pretty basic. They have gotten way better if you go back and look at my old thumbnails, but even my new ones are pretty basic. Again, I keep it pretty low key when it comes to editing. I have a couple of basic templates that I use, and mostly it's just me making a funny expression with a couple of words on the screen, and I keep it there. Same idea, my titles are simple. My end screen is very simple at the end of my videos. My husband is constantly asking me to get it redone so that we can look a little bit fancier. And even like my channel tagline is really silly. So it's like the stabby books, and like what does that even mean anymore? But you know, I still keep it around. So in terms of my channel, yeah, it's simple, it's basic. I've been around so long that I don't probably do things that are probably the best for the YouTube algorithm, but they're just the ways I've always done things. So, you know, I kind of keep it simple and hope that people, again, aren't looking for something super fancy when it comes to my book channel. Next is something a little bit embarrassing to admit, but often I forget to comb my hair, put on makeup, or even just wipe my face before I start filming. A lot of that is due to the fact that often I'm filming based off my husband's schedule, so he'll kind of give me like 2 minutes notice and say, hey, I'll watch the kids so that you can go film. And so rather than spending that time, you know, checking my face, I just run straight to the camera, turn it on, and start filming. That's literally the case of what happened right now. I didn't expect to have filming time today, but they're watching cartoons and I'm like, okay, panic, you know, quick, what video can I film? And so because of that, like, I literally don't know. I'm like, did I brush my hair? Do I have makeup on? I can't remember if I did any this morning. So it is what it is. I have a particularly popular video that actually generated some good volume to my channel and had a lot of good views. And on that video, I'm not even gonna tell you which one it is, you can find it for yourself. I have a big piece of chocolate on my face because I ate like a chocolate bar or something right before filming. And people were very polite. Only one person pointed out in the comments and they were very cute about how they mentioned it. But yeah, I definitely have had food on my face in videos that many people have watched, which is kind of embarrassing. Moving right along. And I also have a really bad habit of peeking at the viewfinder, which you'll see that I've done a few times in this video. I try not to. It's a really basic amateur mistake to make when you're filming videos, but I do sometimes look at it. Sometimes, especially when I'm holding up a book, I want to make sure that the video is in focus, but it's a really bad habit. And then I also have the problem where sometimes I don't look at the viewfinder, which is how I end up with videos with chocolate on my face. So I kind of lose either way, so I don't know what the solution is. And let's wrap up this video with just a few more things that I do very badly. One is the fact that I rarely do live streams. I know that they're very popular and a lot of channels do like weekly live streams, but it's pretty rare for me to do, and it's mostly due to the fact that for myself, it really just gets in the way of work-life balance and really trying to make sure that my hobby doesn't encroach too much on my family time. So I like the fact that YouTube videos can be filmed at any point in the day, but having to schedule and set aside specific time to live stream with it booked ahead of time is just a little bit more stressful. So I try not to do it too often and basically save it for milestones and the very, very occasional guest appearance. So that's why that is the way it is. And I also rarely do rant reviews. And it's not the fact fact that I'm afraid to give a negative opinion. If you've been around my channel for a while, you know that I've had very many negative opinions on several very popular books. I am known for having very unpopular opinions, but a lot of times when it comes to books, unless there is truly something problematic in the book, I have gotten to the point that I do acknowledge that certain books are just not for certain people, and I really try to point out why I didn't like a book as opposed to just saying that the book is stupid and if you like the book you're stupid. I just find that a lot of rant reviews aren't actually helpful because they often just like rip apart the book without any concrete criticisms, and often enough I'll say I really liked this book, but this part wasn't for me, or I don't tend to like gothic slow-paced books, so this gothic slow-paced book didn't really hold my attention, and that's totally valid, and people who do enjoy those kind of books will talk in the comments and say that that's really helpful, and they might pick up the book despite my negative review. So that's kind of why I do them. I don't not do negative reviews, but I just don't do them as rant reviews because I often find that it's kind of disrespectful. I have a saying that I use a lot, and that's that I never want to yuck someone else's yum, so I do try to stand by that. And next is the fact that my book hauls are really boring, and I think that's the fact that I tend to read the books that I receive for review and the books that I buy myself. So I think that for a lot of people, including myself, the excitement of a book haul is seeing someone show books on camera that they haven't read that are filled with potential to be a brand new favorite. However, when I film my book hauls, a lot of times I've already read the books and I'll already have posted reviews, and so I'm just kind of repeating my reviews, and a lot of times I'm showing a book that I was excited about, but then I read it and it wasn't as good as I thought. So I feel like my book haul videos lack a lot of the suspense that people really enjoy in those because, again, I read my books, which kind of ends up being a negative on my channel. It's a weird thing because people almost would rather see books that I haven't read in my book hauls. So I try to, you know, ideally film my book hauls before I read the books because they definitely have better reception when I do it, but people just kind of get annoyed when I've already read the books. It's a weird thing. Last is the fact that I do not film book tags, and these are so popular in the booktube community. I've been tagged by so many wonderful people over the years, and I really appreciate their channels, I appreciate their tags, I appreciate them thinking about me, and then I proceed to not actually do the tag that I've been tagged in. And that's just my preference. I don't really enjoy watching tags, I don't really enjoy filming tags, I don't like posting them. I just don't find them that interesting. The only exception is the mid-year book freakout tag, just because it's a good excuse to do a mid-year summary of my reading. But besides that, I basically skip every single other tag despite my love for the people who are tagging me. So no offense to them, it's just not my thing. But on a really silly note, I thought that it would actually be fun to try to turn this video into a tag. So if you're watching this and you are a booktube creator or just a YouTube creator, I would love for you to try to make a similar video about why you are a bad YouTuber. So again, let's keep it fun. It's not really meant to like roast our own channels, but it is enjoyable sometimes to point out things. Like I definitely know that there are failings in my channel, things that I could do better. My husband points them out all the time, very lovingly, but it's true that I could do things better, and sometimes I just don't, even though I'm aware of the issues. So hopefully this is a fun video to watch, hopefully something a little bit different. And again, if you come to my channel normally for book recommendations and reviews, don't worry, I'll be back again very soon with some normal content. If you're new to my channel, want to stick around and see what else I do wrong, you're welcome to do that. Otherwise, I review horror, thriller, science fiction, fantasy, and if you want to give me a thumbs up if you like this video. If you didn't, I don't want to know, just give me a thumbs down, it'll happen. I'm fine with that. And if you want to share this video around online, you can drop a comment, even if it's just a laughing face or a sad face, depending on your mood. And if you want to hit that little notification bell, you'll never miss a video from me. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.